This is Cutting Down the Nets. We are licking the Vegas wounds. My God, just could not get ahead. Super frustrating. Ended up losing. Nothing outrageous or anything. I've learned to handle it much better as I age, but super frustrating. I mean, it was pretty much right around 50% every day. If you looked at first half splits, they weren't any better. So anytime I lose, I try to figure out, what was it? Was it run bad? Was it something else? Is Paddy not a thing anymore? Look, I looked at like every metric. Like, okay, how did KenPom do? Like KenPom is right around 500. Shot quality is right around 500. Torvik right around 500. It was just nah. Couldn't get hot. Is what it is. Moving on to the Sweet 16. Trying to have some fun here. So I'm going to go through both days here instead of breaking it out day by day. I think y'all can appreciate that. Get it all in one video. So I'm going to reference Paddy at a detailed level today, and I'll show you just some of the backup there as to how I'm making my decision. So we'll start with Arizona Clemson. Both of these teams have been a little bit lucky with three-point defense down the stretch, but Clemson more so in the tournament. Had Baylor made shots, Clemson loses for sure. Now, do they lose by, the spread? I don't know about that, but like for sure they were looking at a loss. Shot quality had it as a loss. I think it's a similar setup here. I think if all things played out as they should, you probably get a Zona win and you probably get a Clemson cover. But to really have upside here, you're going to need Arizona to have like a Baylor game, which I don't know. I think that's a tall task. So Paddy's at 5.3 roughly. Paddy median's at 1.5 in favor of Arizona. Shot quality in that 4.5 to 7.5. Lines at 7.5. When I look at the Paddy detail here, so this is the Paddy detail for Clemson and Arizona. What that means is over the last 15, what's my spread? Last 14, last 13, last 12, 11, and so on. All those data points are right in the 4 to 6 range. So I do think there's some value on the line, but that with everything I've mentioned so far, I think puts things in perspective. The Paddy median is a little tighter here than what the Paddy is. And sometimes you get that just with the volatility of teams and things like that. You'll see that with a couple other matchups. So I have this a yellow. I'm playing Clemson, but totally get it that it's just like, it's just kind of a okay play. UConn and the San Diego State Aztecs. So right now this is at like 10.5. I expect it to grow, like, because it's really hard to mentally say I'm going to bet against UConn. Buddy's not in Vegas. I'm like, guys, you're not going to like this, but Paddy's on Northwestern, and it's like you just feel gross about it. Like it's probably the right side. You'd think, like, just like, because who wants to? And it's a lot of points and stuff like that. Then you watch the game, and it's like, oh my God, at no point did I feel like we had a chance. I mean, you're just going to have to get super hot. So I don't think every game is going to be a blowout that you've got plays in this tournament. But this one feels like just another one. They're so good. You look at their stuff here. I'll drag it over. I think I have Tennessee up right now. I'll just switch that to UConn. You look at their stuff, and it's like they don't play competitive games unless you make at least half of your threes. So here's UConn. You can see that they haven't played too many competitive games this year. 3 losses. Kansas lost to Kansas on the road, where Kansas went 9 of 14 from 3. Lost Seton Hall. Now Seton Hall only shot 8 threes, somehow grabbed 50% of their defensive rebounds or their offensive rebounds. Creighton, the infamous 14 out of 28 at Creighton. So just looking at these types of performances, it's like table stakes to make this game competitive. You have to make like a lot of shots. If you don't, it's a blowout. even if you make half your shots, it still could be a blowout. Just a super, super, super good team. So looking at the backup here for Paddy here, I'll highlight the San Diego State, UConn. This is Paddy, so most of it's like right in that spread of 11-ish. I would lean UConn based on Paddy numbers. The Paddy median is far different, though. I mean, now we're getting into some 15, 16s, and even some 17s there. And I think that feels right to me. So, like, I don't know. I'll play it because it's Sweet 16. Might as well play every game. I mean, why not? You're already chasing money. So that's where I'm at. So if you're keeping track, playing Clemson, playing UConn. Move on to Bama, North Carolina. There's been some gaudy Paddy numbers here at 9 and 17. To me, the story is Bama's defense. I mean, they're in a dogfight with Grand Canyon when Grand Canyon went 2 out of 20 from 3. Now, that wasn't a basketball game, as you saw, but, I mean, this just isn't a Bama team that's playing well all around. Now, they certainly can play well. It's kind of like my golf game. Like, I don't know. It's not very good. But, hey, that one day, I think we shot an 83. Feeling pretty good. Probably break 80 tomorrow. Nope. 91, So, with Bama, I think an issue there is good transition defense from North Carolina. Their style, though, does leave a chance. Earlier in the year, they made a lot of shots. They haven't really since. I don't know. I think Bama has struggled with any team with a pulse in the past 6 weeks, and this one's got a pretty strong heartbeat. Back up here, Paddy numbers in like unusual territory outside of the last 13 to 15 games. Anything that's last 12, last 6, last 8, right around there. Big UNC side for me. And then these median numbers are pretty outrageous. But a median with Bama is kind of irrelevant because they don't play to a median level. Like, you're going to get all this variance. So, I don't know. Something note there. Okay. That game is green. I'm on North Carolina. Next up, Illinois, Iowa State. A little bit of narrative here just from watching both these teams. I watch a lot of Big Ten basketball, and I've watched a fair amount of Iowa State. So, in my opinion, like, Illinois has drawn the anti-Big Ten team here. I mean, there's not a team that plays like Iowa State, as aggressively as Iowa State. And I don't know. I think Illinois is soft. So you're going to hear that theme from me a lot. Like, I mean, who pressures the ball in the Big Ten? Like Northwestern, Nebraska? That ain't no Iowa State, man. Like, no lateral quickness from either of those teams. So I don't know. This thing is completely irrelevant. Shannon's obviously a former Big 12 player. Like, I don't see problems for him, but yeah, I think the rest of the team, you can see that Iowa State does force a ton of jumpers. You're going to get 3-point attempts from Illinois. If they're hot, they're hot. Nothing you can do about it. That's kind of how the tournament goes. If you make more threes than your opponent, you're probably going to win. Digging in on the backup at that game, Iowa State favored kind of across the board for me, typically in that 3 to 5 point range. This is what makes communicating a Paddy number difficult. Like, I have to pick one because, like, what's the difference between Paddy and the spread? I do like to read the data, and this is pretty consistently like a 3 to 5 point margin for Iowa State. And on the median side, it's more like a 3 to 6.5, 7, something like that. So I'm on the Cyclones here. Moving on to Friday's games, Marquette, NC State. NC State, a classic Paddy team, where it's like, okay, is this a different team than what we saw earlier in the year, or are they just, running insanely hot? It's probably somewhere in the middle there. So I see both sides. I think getting 3 possessions is good, but is a little bit of a leap of faith. I mean, Marquette's offense is just going. Like, I mean, it was a layup line against Colorado, but again, they beat Colorado by 4 when Colorado couldn't make a shot. So yeah, I think there's opportunity there. If you dig into that game, all the data points are on NC State, which is not shocking. But the Paddy number is really driven by the last 6 to 8 games, which is when NC State began their ridiculous run, beating Duke, beating North Carolina, and then ultimately getting the easy draw of Oakland in round 2, comparatively speaking. I mean, Oakland was a fine team, but they handled Texas Tech in the opener as well. So the last 5-6 games, obviously, are driving the Paddy number more than any other. If you isolate that to the last 8 to 11, it's like 3.5. Get further out, it's like 5, 6. So it's close. Looking for a reason to play the game this time of year. Paddy median outside of the last 11, which is kind of a weird spike there. It's just the way it worked out when you slice and dice 11 games. Also the NC State side. So don't love it, but playing the Wolfpack. Gonzaga, Purdue. Zags have been trending for a while. Very, very good offense. The defense is more consistent, like consistently good, but not consistent, if that makes sense. I'll pull them up real quick, just kind of show you what I'm seeing. Earlier in the year, you're going to see a lot of these 100s for adjusted defense for Gonzaga. Now we're seeing more 80s, 90s, but you still get some spikes there. So while they're consistently, more often than not, playing good defense, the floor is still there defensively, which is a little bit scary. So Paddy's got this one pretty close to a pick 'em. Now shot quality does not. Shot quality heavily in favor of Purdue, which I get. So looking at the backup here, again, you've just got what Paddy thinks is more of a 1-possession game. Spread's more of a 2-possession game. Digging into the Paddy median. Once again, 1-possession game. Spread's 2-possession game. So can I get 6? That's the question. Can I get 6.5? Maybe. I don't know. Duke, Houston. Houston has had 5 games above a 96 adjusted defensive efficiency in March, which is not good. So looking at Houston's profile here, I thought that was kind of interesting. Now, is that because of their depth? You know, they've lost some depth pieces during this time frame, but you'll notice nothing prior to February 1st above 96. Now you look at since March 1st, this one's above, this one's above. 2 out of 4, 2 out of 5, 3 out of 6, 4 out of 8. Not ideal. That's not a good trend. They do have one offensive stinker that is really dragging down the Paddy number, and then this Oklahoma game is dragging down the Paddy number as well. So I think the median is probably more in line at that 6. We'll look at Duke Houston here. You can just kind of see that we're right around that number. Don't see anything great. And then the median's a little stronger because it's not going to weigh those outliers like an average would. So I think that game is interesting. I lean Houston. I get it. But again, narrative street, Houston's a bunch of dogs, man. I don't think Duke's a bunch of dogs. So buckle up for that one. Creighton, Tennessee to end here. I have this game just like a pick 'em. Probably most have it close to that. The line's 2.5. I'd love to get more than that. This is the best defense Creighton has faced all year. It's lazy, but give me the team that consistently makes shots. However, Creighton does not force turnovers, limiting opponent possessions. They don't grab offensive rebounds, giving you extra possessions. They don't foul or get fouled. They have to make shots. They're very good at making shots, but they have to. Teams like Houston don't have to make shots. They can win other ways. Creighton has to make shots. That is tough, you know? One bad night and you get blown out. They're going to have to ball. So this is a tough defensive team. They got to make shots. I mean, everyone does to win in this game, but there's teams like Texas A&M that literally can't make shots and compete often against really, really good teams because of all the extra opportunities. You're not going to get that with Creighton. Looking at spreads for Creighton, this is the Paddy number. I have Creighton favored in about half of these, Tennessee favored in about half of these, value on the Creighton side, but it's tight. From a median perspective, Same story.